Most Python projects eventually need to read, write, or organize files. In this video, we will cover 13 practical file handling examples that show how Python is used in real scripts, automation, and everyday development. We start with the most common file task: reading simple text data from disk and turning it into values a script can use. A small script often needs settings without hard coding them into Python. Here we create a config file, open it with a context manager, strip each line, split on the first equal sign, and store the values in a dictionary. Now we run the script and check that every setting is parsed correctly. Let's break down why the output looks like this. Each line is read one at a time. The new line is removed with strip, and split turns n-videv into a key and a value, because file data is text. The retry count is stored as the string 3, not an integer yet. Now we show the best practice to keep from this example: use with open whenever you work with files, because it closes the file for you automatically. This is the right default for scripts, automation jobs, and small command line tools. For a quick variation, add debug true to the config text and run the script again. Your goal is to see the new key appear in the final dictionary without changing the parsing loop. Next, we move from reading to writing, where Python creates a file and saves generated output for later inspection. A daily job should usually save a clear result somewhere outside the terminal. In this code, we build a few report lines, write them into dailyreport.txt, and then read the file back as a quick verification step. Now we run it and look at the saved report. Let's break down the result. The confirmation line comes from the script, and the report below it is the actual text read back from the file. The end argument avoids adding an extra blank line after the file content. Now we show the important rule for write mode. Opening a file with W is perfect when you want a fresh report, but it replaces whatever was already there. Use it only when overwriting is the intended behavior. For practice, change the failed jobs number and run the script again. Notice that dailyreport.txt shows the new report, not both old and new reports together. Now we handle the case where existing data must stay in place and new records should be added to the end. For audit logs, deleting old entries would destroy the history we need. Here we create one existing line, open the same file in append mode, add 3 user events, and then run the script to inspect the complete log. The key detail is that append mode writes at the end. Let's break down the output. The first line was already in the file, and the next 3 lines were added later, because every event includes a new line when it is written. Each record stays readable on its own line. Now we show the best habit for append mode. Always decide where the new line comes from before writing records. If you forget it, multiple events can collapse into one long unreadable line. For a quick variation, add one more event to the list, like password change. Run the script and confirm that the new event appears at the end of audit.log. Some files are optional, so good file handling also means checking for missing files and continuing gracefully. Optional files should not crash a script just because they are missing. In this code, we use pathlib to point at notes.txt, show the missing file path, create the file, and then read it successfully. Now we run it and watch both branches happen in one demo. Let's break down the 2 messages. First, the file is not there, so the script prints a friendly fallback instead of failing. Then the file is created, exists returns true, and the content is loaded with read text. Now we show the best practice for modern Python paths. Prefer Pablo because the code reads naturally and works across operating systems. It also gives you convenient methods like exists, read text, and write text on the same object. For practice, change the note message and then print the file size with stat. This helps you get comfortable using the same path object for checks, reads, writes, and metadata. The last example in this batch focuses on reading files efficiently when the file might be too large to load all at once. Large log files can be hundreds of megabytes, so reading everything at once is often the wrong move. In this example, we create a small sample log, then process it the same way we would process a huge one line at a time. Now we run the script and print only the error records plus a final count. Let's break down why this is efficient. The loop gets one line from the file, checks it, and then moves on to the next line. The script never needs a giant list of all log lines in memory. Now we show the best practice for large text files. Use direct file iteration when you only need to inspect lines one by one. Save read or read lines for cases where you truly need the whole file content at the same time. For a useful variation, count warning lines too. Keep the same streaming pattern, add a second counter, and print both totals at the end. Now we move into structured text files. These examples show how to work with CSV data the way real scripts do it, with headers, stable columns, and output that can be trusted. CSV imports are common in real automation, especially when a spreadsheet becomes input for a script. Here we create an orders file, open it with new line handling, and use DictReader so the code talks in column names instead of numeric positions. Now we run the script and look at each order total plus the final revenue. Let's break down why this works. DictReader maps every line to a dictionary using the CSV header, so row product and row price are clear and stable. The values still arrive as strings, so we convert quantity and price before doing the multiplication. The best practice here is to use Python's CSV module whenever the file is really CSV. It protects you from edge cases like quoted commas, different line endings, and exported spreadsheet quirks that simple split calls do not handle correctly. When an automation script finds problems, a CSV report is a practical handoff to operations or support teams. We define a list of failed jobs, choose the exact columns, write the header, and save every row. Now we run it and verify the saved report by reading it back. Let's break down the important part. DictWriter does not guess the report shape from whatever dictionary it sees first. The field names list becomes the contract, so every row follows the same column order. The best practice here is to define field names explicitly when writing CSV reports. Apply this whenever another tool or person expects stable columns, because changing column order can silently break spreadsheets and imports. Next is JSON, which is the format you will see in settings files, API payloads, caches, and small local databases. A CLI tool often needs a small settings file for preferences like theme or page size. Here we create settings.json, load it with JSON load, update the theme and a feature flag, then save the dictionary back. Now we run it and check the before and after values. Let's break down why this feels simple. JSON objects become Python dictionaries, strings stay strings, numbers stay numbers, and true or false values become booleans. After the update, dump writes valid JSON back to the same file. The best practice here is to format JSON when people might open the file. Use indent equals 2 for settings, reports, and local data files because it makes changes easy to review and debug. Now we handle paths the practical way. These patterns help scripts save files reliably, even when the target folder structure does not exist yet. Report generators often save files into folders like reports by year, month, or customer. Before writing the file, we create the parent directory chain with pathlib, then save the summary text. Now we run it and confirm the exact path and existence check. Let's break down the path handling. The file is summary.txt, but the folder we need to create is its parent, reports/2026. Parents equals true creates the whole chain, and exist OK equals true lets the script run repeatedly. The best practice here is to prepare the folder before writing the file. Use this anytime the output path is nested, generated dynamically, or based on dates, users, or report categories. Finally, we handle file errors without turning small missing file problems into crashes. The goal is to catch the specific failure and continue with useful behavior. A cache file is optional data, so a missing cache should not crash the whole script. We try to read cache.txt, catch only file not found error, rebuild the data, and save it for next time. Now we run the script as if this is the first run. Now we run the same script a second time without changing the code. Because the first run saved cache.txt, the script follows the fast path and loads the cache data. Let's break down the behavior on the first run. Read text raises file not found error and the fallback creates the cache. On the next run, the file exists, so the try block succeeds and the accept block is skipped. The best practice here is to catch the exact file error you expect. Use file not found error for a missing cache, because a broad accept could also hide permission problems, encoding errors, or real bugs in your fallback code. Now we move into reliable file updates. These examples are about changing files without leaving broken data behind. A deployment script should never leave a manifest half-written. So instead of writing directly into manifest.txt, we create manifest.tb with the complete new content. Now we run the script and watch the temporary write happen before the replacement. Let's break down why this works. The risky part is the file write, so we do that on manifest.tp. Only after the full content exists do we replace the real file, which keeps the final manifest clean and complete. The best practice here is to update important files through a temporary file. Use this when writing manifests, configs, reports, or anything that another process may read later. The target should change only after the new file is complete. Next, we transform files in a controlled way. The goal is to change only the records we mean to change. A maintenance script often needs to update config files, but it should not blindly replace every matching line. Here we keep track of the current feature section, check whether it is deprecated, and only then change enabled true to enabled false. Now we run it and look at both the audit messages and the final config. Let's break down the result. New checkdat still has enabled true because its deprecated flag is false. The two old features were changed, and the script printed their names so we can review exactly what happened. The best practice here is to make file transformations auditable. When a script rewrites a file, print or log the records that changed. That makes maintenance scripts much easier to trust. Finally, we handle many files at once. This is where pathlib becomes especially useful in real cleanup scripts. For real cleanup jobs, we usually process a whole folder, not one file. This script creates a small input docs folder, scans only the txt files with pathlib, counts words, and writes a CSV report. Now we run it and check the per file counts plus the final total. Let's break down the workflow. Glob finds only the files that match the pattern, so ignore.md is skipped automatically. Sorting the paths makes the output stable, and the CSV report stays separate from the input files. The best practice for batch workflows is to keep source files and generated reports separate. Use pathlib globbing to make file selection clear, and write summaries to a dedicated output file. That keeps the script predictable as the folder grows. Now you have 13 real examples for working with files in Python more confidently. Like the video, subscribe to Dev Level Up, and write in the comments what Python topic or real-world example you want to see next.